This video was kind of a request from a patron over at Patreon. He contacted me and said that he and some of his friends are now, they're at the point that they want to organize a group. And they were wondering if I had any ideas on resources they can look at to figure out what type of organization they should have. Well, it's not like I haven't done this in the past. I've literally looked at the playlist and there's 30 some videos in there already considering different organizational ideas. But let's get this down to the very beginning. We're going to start off, that initial group, and you're trying to put a unit together. So the first question automatically is, how many people do you have in reality? Okay, you may have people that you can kind of think will be in there, or they're kind of in, kind of out. How many do you realistically have? That will give you the size of the organization, which you can then take and figure out, well, what type of organization should we have? What duty positions and so forth. So if you have only 3 to 5 people, really you have only a fire team. If you have less than 3 people, if you have only 2 people, guess what? That's a buddy team. Pretty straightforward. And if you're an individual, you're a lone wolf. Now, if you have, say, 6 to 15, okay, you pretty much have a squad, but even at 6, I'd say you're down near fire team level. If you have 16 or more, you have enough that you can at least form an understrength platoon. Now, for an idea on this, you typically have 2 to 3 fire teams per squad. And 2 to 4 squads make up a platoon. If you have enough that you have, greater than 4 squads, well, really split that off. You now have 2 platoons and you have an understrength company. So what if we have 4 people? Well, first off, with any organization, you got to decide who's going to be in charge. And I've mentioned this in the past. I know I've gone over it during the, are we doomed? There's no leader of the militia video. I'm sure I covered this in that. Most militia leaders, at least right now, are decided through a vote. You can do it as raising your hands, or my recommendation would be write the name on a piece of paper, put it in the hat, and then you go through in front of everyone, every piece of paper, call out, the name on there. Whoever has the most votes becomes the leader of that unit for a set period of time. Could be 1 year, 2 years, whatever you so choose. But I do recommend you have a term for that commander. So, we have our leader. We're going to have, say, 4 people here. So we're going to have a fire team. So our unit commander is going to be that team leader, TL. And then he's going to have 3 people under him. What should their jobs be? Well, it wouldn't hurt to have a sniper, and then the other 2 would be riflemen. As you capture better weaponry, that team leader should get a grenade launcher. Typically that was a team leader weapon. Your rifleman down here, well, when you capture a squad automatic weapon, a saw, one of those riflemen just became the saw gunner. You capture some anti-tank weapons, well, your other rifleman becomes your anti-tank gunner. Get the idea? But just starting out, the people that you're going to have, a leader, and then primarily riflemen after that. And it's a lot easier right now if you have someone who's got a lot of experience hunting, you know, they have the scoped rifle, they can do those long-range precision fires. Designate them as your designated marksman, aka sniper. Any additional people that would be added to this would be riflemen until you capture another piece of equipment that that person should carry. Except the machine gun. When you capture a machine gun, 2 people get transferred into that team. The machine gunner and assistant gunner. But really, in a fire team, the heaviest weapon that you really need, realistically, would be a squad automatic weapon. A light machine gun, because that's a 1-person weapon. So now let's go up and let's say we have 9 people inside our group. Well, we can organize a squad. So our unit commander is going to be a squad leader. And then underneath him, he's a squad leader, 2 fire teams of 4 each, headed by a team leader. Or you can eliminate 1 team leader position and have it taken over by the squad leader. Your choice. And then you'll have under it on 1 team would be your designated marksman, your sniper, and then rifle. Your other team, rifle. The squad leader typically does not carry a special weapon, on average. When you look in history, back in World War II, the squad leader typically carried some type of automatic weapon, like a submachine gun. Now, if you want a person who's designated as the anti-drone person, they carry around a goose gun, a shotgun, for handling low-flying drones. Well, that person takes the position of one of these riflemen, probably one over here on this team. Now, we capture additional weapons. So we capture squad automatic weapon. Well, he's going over here. You can do an assault with a saw. This is our primary assault team, and over here primarily our support by fire, and you'll see why. Now, we also captured a machine gun. Well, machine gun is now handled by 1 person. One of these riflemen now becomes the assistant gunner. If we capture anti-tank weapons, well, those will go to these 2 guys back here. If one of them happens to be a javelin, probably figure it'd be going to this guy. And then this guy over here would have the lighter weapons like the wall rockets. That's just another way it can be done. And then, you know, the team leader would end up with a grenade launcher. What if we have more than that? what if we have 14 to 15 people? Well, we have our designated leader, squad leader. If we have 16 or larger, you know, person in charge becomes a platoon leader, and then you have 2 squad leaders, and then smaller teams underneath, 2 teams per squad. But we have our squad leader, and let's say we have 3 fire teams. So we have our team leader, team leader, team leader. And then we have rifle, 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 rifle. Now, if you're counting, that's 13. I said we had 14. Well, our 14th person, he becomes the battle buddy for that squad leader. He becomes your communication specialist, the RTO, the radio telephone operator. He's the one who should know how to handle different types of radios. Not just, you know, the most common military radio currently used in that particular country, but, you know, your FRS, your GMRS, your MERS, your ham. You know, someone who's really technical, has a real IT technical background, who can understand the ins and outs of electronic communications. Make that person your RTO, your communications expert. Now we have one person who will be designated as our, you know, designated marksman. So one of these riflemen he now has a job of being the unit sniper. Scoped, longer range rifle. You want examples on that? How about an AR-10? How about a HK-91 clone with a scope on it? Or an M14 or M1A with a scope on it? Or it could be just a hunting rifle that he's damn good at, he has ammo for, and the equipment that he can carry the ammo for. Like I said, hunter background, good at long range shots, sniper. Now we capture some equipment after our first battle, our first ambush. We capture about a squad's worth of equipment. Well, grenade launchers, military squads typically have only 2 fire teams, so we captured 2 grenade launchers. So I'm just going to call them 203s. I understand the 203 was retired. Give them to 2 of the team leaders. We captured a squad automatic weapon. Well, your primary assault team. That rifleman, guess what? Here you go. You get an M249. We captured a machine gun. We captured a 240. Well, our third fire team over here, how about we turn them into our support by fire? So that team leader, he either becomes the assistant gunner or the machine gunner. Either or. So he's now the assistant gunner. Person underneath him, the machine gunner. The assistant gunner still carries a rifle. Now we also captured some anti-tank weapons. What type? Lighter weapons? Well, let's say we distribute them equally on our 2 assault teams. So each one will have 1 or 2, depending what it is. If you capture a javelin, I would think about putting them over here in our support by fire team. Now these 2 remaining people over here in our support by fire team, guess what their jobs are going to be? To support that machine gun. Well, how can they support that machine gun? Ammo bearers, carrying additional ammunition for that machine gun. Now some just general notes to help you on this stuff. Your rifleman should have working knowledge on the more common firearms out there, not just civilian but military. If you can handle an AR-15, you probably are going to be able to handle an M16 or an M4. You should have understanding on how to handle a AK platform. And it doesn't matter if it's an AK-47, AKM, AK-74, AK-103, AK-12. They all have similar operating systems. Primary job position, rifleman. Our team leaders, or our leaders, should have an understanding on using grenade launchers, the most common types that are out there. The M203 may be retired in U.S. service, but it's still used with a lot of our allies in NATO. And it's used in other countries around the world, third world nations. Know how to use it. Know how to use the replacement for the 203. I think it's like the M230. And you know what? It would not hurt to get a good idea on how to operate the Russian equivalent. I think it's like a GP-15. I don't have it written down here, so don't start yelling at me if I give you the wrong designation. I know that it's a 30 millimeter grenade launcher, operates differently than a 203. You don't break open a breech and slide the cartridge in from the back. You slide it in from the front, push it all the way down in there to seat it in place. Your machine gunner, or the person that you've designated that, hey, we capture a machine gun, you're going to take it on that first battlefield, you're going to maintain it, you're going to be the machine gunner, should have an understanding on how to handle, operate, and maintain an M240. And if he can understand that, guess what? He can understand how to operate an FN Mag 58, which is the older version of a 240 that's used by most European armies. Should also have an idea on how to handle an M60. Yes, it's been retired from U.S. military service, but they have a tendency to appear out of nowhere. Whenever an additional machine gun is needed, holy crap, guess what comes out of the arsenal somewhere? At least in the United States. Should also have an understanding on how to operate an MG3. That's the next runner-up for most common machine gun in NATO. Produced in Germany, it's the evolution of the MG42 from World War II. And then let's not forget the former Comblak equivalent that basically equips every other army around the world, the PKM series, or PK machine gun series. Doesn't look too much different than an M240, but the operating system is different. The assistant gunner. His primary job is to support the machine gunner as his loader. He's the Johnny on the spot right there with the ammunition belt to attach onto the one that's being fed into the gun at the time. He also carries that tripod for that weapon, if one exists, and the spare barrel or barrels. Your squad automatic weapon gunner, the person that's going to be designated that you told, hey, we capture a saw, you're going to be the one that carries it, needs to have an understanding on how to handle the M249 saw. And if he can understand that, he can understand its equivalents that are used around the world. Israel has their version. Germany has their version. It's the MG4. All of them trace back to the FN Minimi, created by the Belgians, which is used across Europe. and should also have an understanding of the RPK, used in Russian military and exported around the world since the 1960s. And it wouldn't hurt to maybe have a little bit of background on the RPD. It's a older version, the predecessor to the RPK, and it's used by third world nations, especially in Africa and Asia. You know, the ones that would be used as cannon fodder by any foreign invasion. The person that you designate that, well, really everyone, should have an understanding on using anti-tank weapons. But especially the person that you told, hey, if we capture an anti-tank weapon, you're the one that's going to be the gunner. Should understand how to use the M72 Law Rocket series, the M136AT4, which is used by multiple countries around the world. And then let's throw in there the RPG-7. Probably the most used anti-tank weapon around the world. Everyone seems to have them. Even countries that aren't allies with Russia seem to have some pretty good stockpiles of RPG-7 launchers and rockets. Everyone should understand how to use all of those and be able to target them, line up the shot, fire the weapon. If there's a misfire, how to clear the misfire, reset it, and fire. And then the person who's your designated anti-tank person, your primary anti-tank person, maybe they should read up on what they can on the Javelin anti-tank missile system, the NLAW system out of Britain. And you know, if you can find the information on an AT-13 out of Russia, go ahead. But trying to find information on Russian anti-tank guided missiles that you can actually use to train someone on the stuff is pretty hard to come by. The ones I would look at would be the AT-4 Spigot, the AT-5 Spandrel, and these are NATO designations, and the AT-13, which has replaced those older weapon systems. As I said, the designated marksman or sniper should be someone who has a lot of experience at hunting. They're good at it. They're good at long range shooting, and they have the weapon for it. Now, some additional skills that you should maybe encourage your people to get, to have in a unit that could be useful. Medic, combat lifesaver. Go to those first responder courses. That Red Cross first aid course. Read the U.S. military's combat lifesavers materials that are posted online. And it's okay if that material is a manual from 1990 something. It'll still keep someone alive. And then don't forget the first aid tasks in the Warrior Task Manual, because there's newer equipment that's out there. You know, we all prayed to get a hold of that EMT and that stuff, that doctor in the unit. But let's be realistic, very few are going to get those. So you're going to have to tell a person who's more oriented that direction, hey, we understand this, you're going to be the one that's going to have to try keeping people alive. Read up as much as you can. Study it, learn it. It wouldn't hurt to have 1 or 2 people designated as your primary scouts. So maybe they should learn tracking skills and also counter tracking skills. How to throw off the enemy's tracking teams. How to throw off dogs. And then ways that you can get around those counter tracking techniques employed by the enemy that you're following, that you're tracking down in the woods, in the mountains. Your scouts need to have a good understanding on range estimation, making range cards, maybe using the cameras available to your people that you have designated for the unit for taking reconnaissance photos quietly without anyone noticing that you're there. Have that scout team, maybe they should have a targeting scope that they can look in through to check out enemy encampments and scan ahead. And it's always good to have someone who's designated as the cook, someone who's got that ability to take a pile of not very, good looking batch of materials and turn it into that gourmet meal. So they should have a good understanding on campfire cooking and baking. If you can pull it off, hopefully you get a person who's so damn skilled, you tell them, hey, you get the food ready while we go out do this patrol. You come back and he's got a gourmet meal set up for you. He's got stew made. He's got, freshly baked bread. Maybe he's got some fish frying over the fire also. You guys come back, fill your bellies, and you're good. Another thing that you should encourage is someone to learn to be the engineer, learn to be the demo man. Really, the person for this, especially with handling explosives, they should already be trained in handling explosives. You can screw it up, and you can screw it up badly. But a person otherwise who would probably work in this is someone who has a construction background, because your engineer, your demo man, needs to have a good understanding on the likely landmines you could come across, booby traps, ones that you could come across and ones that you need to make to slow an enemy down. Should have an understanding of how to improvise different shelters out in the woods to keep you guys alive in the middle of winter when the blizzard's about to come in and you got to find some way to get a shelter up before that temperature drops. Should also have a good understanding on at least basic defensive fighting positions, so that if you get trapped somewhere, that you're able to knock out those hasty positions even under fire to increase your chances of surviving that battle. And then it wouldn't hurt, have an understanding of obstacle warfare, how to slow an enemy down. Now, it wouldn't hurt, you also have a person who is designated the forager in the unit. That's the person who's the primary person who's supposed to go out, hunt, fish, trap game. Can identify and gather up reliably wild edibles. Is able to identify the poisonous plants so he doesn't accidentally grab them. And maybe have a little bit of skills on how to trade with people, because you may not have large amounts of currency with you to purchase food from a farmer. You might have to trade with the person. What do you have that maybe they could need or want? Have some understanding on that. It wouldn't hurt to have someone with gunsmithing skills. Someone who can repair a captured weapon that was damaged, or repair one of your own when that spring breaks. Or that firing pin breaks and that firing pin is captive inside the bolt. Other skills that really should be encouraged: languages. Some of them that I can think off a hand here: French, one of the most common languages in the world; Russian, Arabic, Mandarin Chinese, Spanish. Learn how to speak it fluently. Get that Rosetta Stone or Babbel or some other program. Learn a foreign language. And it really helps if you have a couple people in the unit that speak that language so they can speak back and forth. Work on those conversational skills and the writing skills so that they can read captured materials, hopefully. And it doesn't hurt, have someone who's a mechanic. Someone who can repair a car engine, repair a small engine like on a bike or an ATV, on that pickup truck or farm truck that you come across that, hey, we can use this to get to this location a little bit quicker because it's farther away. And this is, that's just some of the skills. I'm sure there's plenty more that would come in handy. But that's, hopefully gives you somewhat of an idea on how to organize a unit. You know, as I said, first off, how many people do you have? That determines the type of organization you should have. Do you have only enough for a fire team? Or do you have enough that you can do a squad? Do you have a little bit more than a squad? Well, just make a squad with 3 fire teams. If you have enough people that you could do a squad with 4 fire teams, guess what? Split 2 of them off, designate them as another squad, and you just became a platoon. A platoon is typically made up of between 2 to 4 squads. Get the idea? As I've said before, there is tons of information out there on this stuff. Look at reenactors. Look at the information, the sources they go to. Different types of organizations and different militaries from World War II or Vietnam or Korea or the global war on terrorism or the Cold War. Look around, find one that you think, hey, this is a good idea. Maybe this would work best for us. And you know what? You can always change it later. If you get onto the battlefield or just your training in that organization, you know it's not quite working out the way you thought it was, tweak it any way you need to. You're not bound that you have to have one set organization. Change it as you need to. Hell, change it from mission to mission. You're a guerrilla force. You're a resistance organization. You can do that. Just make sure everyone is aware you're making this change, and here's the reason why. Now, should you change leaders in the middle of a conflict? You know, that person's term is up? Well, that's up to you. If that person is subpar, not meeting the expectations you had for that person, then maybe you should put someone else in there, have another vote. Otherwise, hey, that person is in that position for the duration or until they get promoted to a higher position. Because your unit has expanded. You've gone from a squad to a platoon, and then you end up with even more people joining, you become a company. You get even more people joining, well, you got more than a company's worth. What do you become then? You become an understrength battalion. And I doubt there's too many militias or guerrilla organizations that are going to get larger than that. Have there been in history? Oh, hell yeah. There were OSS teams in World War II that formed resistance units in Europe, in Nazi-occupied Europe. Those units numbered in the tens of thousands. So you're talking brigade, division size at that point. Learn as much as you can. You got the time now. Go through, do your initial organization, and then designate people. Hey, we captured a weapon, you're the machine gunner. Hey, we capture anti-tank rockets, you're the anti-tank gunner. Hey, we get a grenade launcher, it's going to you. We get another one, hey, it's going to you. Tell the people now so they can study now. And you know what? It doesn't hurt to throw those classes in there in your regular training so that everyone gets a bit of an idea on how to do that stuff, just in case. Hopefully this answers your questions there, patron. This helps you out. I've gone a lot longer than what I anticipated. But here you go. Now, for all my engineer brothers in the Patriot and militia movements, always remember, essay ons.